Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Alex's Afternoon Art Show. It's getting to that part of the year now where it's cold. So yeah, the dressing gown is back in full effect. It only took until after the end of well, I'm recording this in October, but it only took until, the end of October for it to actually get cold. Good old climate change. Anyways, today we are drawing Shredder. From the Ninja Turtles. If only because I recently watched the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie and I thought it was good. Even though Shredder isn't in it, I still felt like drawing this. Shredder's cool, so such is the way things are. But yeah, I'm gonna be maybe talking a little bit about lighting. Maybe. I don't think I'm gonna have a big topic on this one. This one's mostly just kind of. This one I don't really have a topic for really at all. I'm just kind of going and doing it. That's it. It's cold. I want to be warm. I don't want to be sat here all day doing this. It's cold in this goddamn room. Anyways, yeah. Is that enough rambling for an intro? Yeah, I think so. I think that's enough for the cold open. Yeah. Anyways, this is a very strange opening to a video. So I'm just going to roll the intro so that this can be over. I'm going to do that now. Okay, so this is what we've got. I've already got my reference and everything open on the screen in front of me. But yeah, this is what we're going for. So I am going to be I'm going to be doing a little bit of a background on this one. Not much. I'm just going to do some lightning in the background, some big spooky green lightning. Because I suppose we're still on the tail end of spooky season by the time this comes out, so I suppose may as well. But yeah, so realistically speaking, this is going to be sort of based off of a design that I saw. I think I don't know where it comes from, but it's a piece of Dan Mora art, of course it is. That I've kind of based this design off of. Not specifically the cartoon, not specifically any movie or anything like that, but I am altering it slightly from the design I'm seeing here, because in the design I'm seeing here his bare arms aren't out, but I've changed it so his bare arms are out because I prefer that. And yeah, so I'll zoom in just to demonstrate what I'm going to be doing here, because I'm giving him the triangle eyes, like I did Batman, but this time I am going to be doing pitch black around it. I'm just going to be using this black, my detail black, for around his eyes, so that's going to be a pure little black area. And you can see obviously the kind of way that I made him pretty shredded on his chest, even though it's not going to be visible whenever I'm done doing the kind of clothes and everything over him. So it was pointless, but I had fun doing it. So yeah, and it's good practice to do this stuff anyways. Even if you're not going to use it, it's good practice to get the kind of musculature lines dipping inward, because his arms are coming up like this. So, well, more like that, when his chest is kind of dipping inwards a little bit. So it's interesting to get those kind of stretch lines coming across the chest that way. And yeah, the cape here is kind of folding inwards. So if we were to see a full body here, the kind of ends of the cape would probably cover his feet. It would probably come in front of his feet. Yeah, as I say, there's maybe a slight bit of perspective going on here, because you're seeing like some, like a slight kind of underside to his helmet here, because you can see the kind of little lines here, and this kind of dips up where it should be going backwards, more or less. But because it's like slightly lower angle, you can see the kind of the effectively the underbrow on the kind of big forehead piece. And it's the same thing with kind of the neck. You shouldn't really be able to see much of his neck because of the way that the helmet falls, but because his head is leaning back, you can. And yeah, some of these lines are a little unclear here, but they'll become clear whenever I'm doing the details and stuff like that. There's a slight bit of kind of bend on the claws, the shredder claws. I don't know what you exactly call them, the shredders. But yeah, there is a slight kind of bend on them with the way that they kind of move. Because again, they're kind of, there's a little bit of perspective to them. They kind of go out that way a little bit. So, and this was the thing which I had to remind myself of, is that they're supposed to be attached to the back of his gauntlet. They're supposed to be attached there, not like Wolverine. They don't come out of his hand. So it was a case of where I had to kind of adjust these, because I initially drew them to be much kind of closer in between the knuckles. That's not how they're supposed to be. They're not like a thing that he wraps his hand around on the inside either. They're on the back. In this design, at least. I don't know if they're normally on the back or if they're normally inside, but I'm pretty sure they're normally on the back. Sometimes in some of these designs that I'm seeing in front of me here, they're on the actual gauntlet, meaning that whichever way he moves his wrist, the things should still be pointing forward, even if he was, like, they should still be coming out, even if he were to move his wrist like that. It wouldn't change the direction. But logically, they should be on the back of the hand, because it should be a case where he should have full freedom of movement like that. That's just kind of logically the way that should work. But yeah, I don't think there's a huge amount I need to go over. I'm going to be making his skin a little darker because of that's how he normally looks in the cartoon. He normally has darker skin in that, so that's what I'm going off of here. So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of my mind there. There's a few bits of this. I might need to alter this, because this does, like, some of these gauntlets here, his wrist looks kind of chunky, a little too big, so I might taper some of this in a little bit. Like here, this flows a little better, but not here. Yeah, symmetry is not something I'm amazingly good at, but in the same sense, symmetry is not realistic. The body is not perfectly symmetrical. You have two arms, but they're not the same. They don't look exactly the same, and here that's kind of the same thing here. This arm is slightly bent more upwards, whereas this arm is kind of more straight out. His wrist is bending upwards. And yeah, I mean, these claws are significantly larger than these ones, so I might try and taper these in a little bit so they're more in tune with these, because I prefer the shape of these ones as opposed to these. Yeah, I'm trying to think now. I think I've gone over all the kind of basic, kind of broad strokes details that I need to do now. But yeah, these little lines on his arms here. These are like kind of like stretch marks that you get whenever you're like really stretching your arms out. You'd kind of get these kind of twisting stretches that would kind of come along the arm a little bit there. But you wouldn't really see them unless you were pretty bulky. And that's the thing here. Obviously, Shredder's bulky, so you can see these. But yeah, I'll get to colors and stuff like that later, because Shredder is largely grey, but yeah, I'll get to that anyways later. So I think I will begin. I don't think there's anything else I need to go over, and if there is, I can just do it later. But yeah, we'll do it. I'll get into this, and I'll be back at some point.
faster than bebop. Gillespie with the technique, y'all don't like one-on-one shoot. Mikey take 100 plus some with the nunchuck. Leonardo cut him up. Donnie, he the smartest. He gon' teach whoever dumb enough to rap. Just asking, Satachi or the uppercut? What's up? Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. I can do this all day. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Can't handle this. You end up with some bandages. My ambulance, my channel 6. What I report with the damages. We the champions. Better than the 10 out of 8. Shut up, better get down and pray. Don't ever let it out the rage in the cage. I'm a beast, so we'll get out the game. This ain't no green machine. We'd rather be eating pizza. Prefer shop or eat the street. Face down, we see defeat for thinking you can see our team in a box like CRTs. Just scream retreat. We defeat and fleet seasonally. I should have came peacefully. Come on, rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. I can do this all day. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. I can do this all day.
Okay, so that is our details done. Meaning that we've still got a little bit left to do. Now, there aren't a huge amount of colors going on here, so in theory this should be reasonably quick to do the rest of this. And now I mentioned before that I'm going to be giving him slightly darker skin tone, and that's probably what I'm going to start with, because there isn't going to be much of this in his arms and his neck. But yeah, before that I'll probably just throw on a background, so I'm going to probably go for a kind of a... what am I thinking for the background? What am I thinking? I'm thinking something kind of greenish for some reason. Thinking kind of like a greeny color. That's... I know I did this last time for the what do you call it? The Spawn one. To have a green color. But what I'll do is I'll do this, and then I will get a kind of a lighter green. And then what I might do here is I might go for something like that, and then make the rest of this darker, because I did this in the Ghost Rider one. I went back and I made each of these bits darker. I used basically bigger things like that, bigger strokes, make the rest of it darker so that it emphasized the light part more. It is a funky process, it doesn't always work exactly how you want it to. That's more or less what I wanted though, but what I will do is I'll get this green again, and then I'll go much lighter on it. Like that. That'll brighten things up a little bit more. Sort of. That's kind of what I want. No, you know what, I think I maybe don't want that, because I want a soft glow, because I'm going to be putting lightning in the background, and that'll be reasonably, maybe a little bit more moderate in terms of what we're doing there, but that's for later. So I will do these colors. Is there anything I need to say beforehand? Yeah, realistically, this is, again, Shredder's colors are mostly grey and silver. There's a bit of purple in there, obviously, with the cape and with his waistband, but the majority of it is grey. I've decided to make his waistband purple, even though a lot of the time it's black. It's not normal, it's not purple a lot of the time, but I think Be nice to add a little bit more of the purple in there, but that's obviously going to be our last color, I think. Yeah, probably. Because a lot of silver. Silver. Yeah, a lot of silver on the top here. And then will be the grey with this, and then the dark grey for the trousers. So yeah, I will run through this, and yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to need to turn off the background for most of this, but be wary, there may be some flashing here. Whenever we get to the silver, there'll probably be a little bit of it, so just be warned. It's going to get a little bit hectic, I would say. Let me see if I can find the right skin tone here that I'm looking for. Something like that, maybe a little paler. Anyways, I will speed this up and then I'll be back once I'm done the colors, once I've kind of figured out what I want to do here.
In the game of that we suffer, how we got these cowards running home, and I'm like, why they out here frontin'? These crews get rock steady, we playing faster than bebop. Gillespie with the technique, y'all like one-on-one shoot. Mikey take 100 plus some with the nunchuck. Leonardo cut him up, Donnie he the smartest. He gon' teach whoever dumb enough to rap. Just asking, Satachi or the uppercut? What's up? Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. I can do this all day. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Rolling up Broadway. Can't handle this. You end up as a bandages. My ambulance, my channel 6. Running report with the damages. We the champions. Better than the 10 out of 8. Said I better get down to pray. Don't ever let it out the rage in the cage. I'm a beast, so we'll get out the game. This ain't no green machine. We'd rather be eating pizza, but first I go eat the street. Face down, we see defeat for thinking you can see our team in a box like CRTs. Just scream with treat the treat. Defeating fleet seasonally.
Okay, so we're at the 3-hour mark. This is going to be one of those longer ones, potentially. Maybe there's only, I think there might only be like an hour of this left. Ish, maybe. But now we're onto the painting. And so I've got an idea of what we're going to do here. We're going to be doing some more intense shading, so we're going to stick to 80% on our painted shading. So we're going to be doing, what's our light color going to be? Trying to figure out what our shading colors are going to be. So basically the idea that I'm going to do here is that there's going to be the softer shading coming up from the bottom, and then there's going soft light is going to come out from the bottom, and then because the lightning is going to be behind him, there's going to be a rim light that'll probably be green. And the edges will have basically the dark kind of shading along them, along these edges up here, and then there'll be the kind of pale shading down here. Probably the entire arm here will be dark, so that then the lighting can hit them like that. Inside of the cape will be dark, but this part will be soft light, and then there'll be the kind of light green edge around this, because that's probably what we're going to be doing on our light line, because the lightning is going to be green, is kind of what I'm going for here. Now the only thing is, I need to figure out what our dark color is going to be. I'm thinking, should just our shading here be entirely green? I don't want to go too green on it, though, that's the thing. Maybe our lighter color should be a bluey color, maybe like a bluey purple color. Or maybe our lighter color, and then our darker color be green. So this will be where we're doing our dark. So that'll be this kind of nasty green, and then that'll kind of get washed out as we're going with our gradient maps and stuff like that later. That seems to work. That seems to work in my mind. So dark green and light blue. That sounds all right. I had to adjust our silver a few different times because I was unsure whether or not the silver should be lighter or darker than the grey, than this kind of core grey here. But I settled on it being lighter. But yeah, anyways, we'll be back once I've done the painted shading. And then I'll be back to do the detailed shading and some of the light line and stuff like that, the last little bits. But yeah.
Ninjas in the sky. Come on, kiss yourself goodbye.
Okay, so that is our painted shading done. So, something which I wanted to just quickly go over before I get into doing the detailed shading is that I went through and I changed the layer type on a few of these. So for example, on the purple I changed it from normal to pinlight, and the reason is on normal it's just too washed out. Then you can't see that it's purple anymore. So I changed it to pinlight so that it's got this green hue here and this blue hue here, but it's still very much purple. And then obviously when we put the detailed shading over it, will recorrect it back to being slightly more green and blue, but it will still maintain the purple, which is what we want. We don't want it to completely lose the purple. It's Shredder's it's his primary color here, really. So we don't want to lose it completely. And I did the same thing on the silver, because on the normal I feel like it doesn't look amazing. So I changed it to have a linear burn. I'm not normally sure what that does, but just here it's making our green a lot darker and our blue a little lighter. So that it looks a little bit more intense on the shading, which is all I really wanted. And with the grey and the dark grey, I toyed around with them a little bit, but largely I don't like how they look whenever they have a few different types on them, so we're just going to be sticking with those. For now, I mentioned it in the Morrigan episode as just like this is a quick fix for rather than having to repaint these things. And it can also add a nice kind of type of sheen to it. So for example here, this makes the purple material look like a kind of a bit more of a shiny material. Which would make sense given that, well, I don't know that it necessarily makes sense, but it doesn't clash with anything. It's the same with the silver. I want that to look a little bit more shiny, so it's fine to add a layer which adds a little bit more sheen to it. So for example, it makes the blue here look a little bit more gritty, and then it looks like kind of weathered metal if we zoom in. It kind of, it makes the darks here look a little dirtier. So it looks like it's a bit more weathered, which I think is a neat thing. And then, yeah, obviously, with this, it kind of looks like a material, maybe, I can't think of maybe a material that this kind of reminds me of, but perhaps a material where it's like little tiny bits which would catch glints. I can't really exactly describe it. Perhaps like a sequin or something like that, like a satin maybe, I don't know exactly. Something that would like obviously catch the light a little bit more, but it would, whenever in the darker parts of it would look very dark. And that's kind of what we've got here, of where in the darker parts it still looks dark, but in the lighter parts it's got like a very odd glint to it. Because of the way that the brush works, it's got this kind of jaggedness and dirtiness to it, so it comes across as this kind of like odd material which kind of like flutters along, which I think I like how that looks. But yeah, so we're gonna do the detailed shading on the light line now. And yeah, just as a reminder, our light line is going to be green. And we've got our colors set out that we want to use, so I mean I can pretty much just reuse this more or less, maybe make it a tiny bit paler, make it a little bit lower, and that's our blue. As our light color, and as our dark color, we're going to want a green, and make it a little bit more like this, make it pretty dark. And that's our dark color, so we'll be starting with that. And yeah, we've got a bit of a weird color palette here all in all, but we'll see how it works in the end. I might have to recolor correct it and do some different weird stuff to it depending on how it looks in the end, because if it looks real bad I'm going to change it. But yeah, anyways, we'll see. Let's do this detailed shading and the light line, and we'll be back. Okay, so that is our light line done, which means we just need to do the lightning. I might speed this up depending on what happens here. Did I put in lightning? Not the right word. Lightning. That's what I meant to put in. So I've shown off the way that I do this before, I think. So I just do a squiggle basically, and then put an outer glow on it. That's all there is to it, really. I'm gonna have to. I'll zoom in a little bit, but that was terrible. It was also terrible. That's slightly less terrible. That's too similar. That's bad. Yeah, this is a process which involves a lot of trial and error, really, because it's mostly just, oh well, that's bad, and then that's slightly better, and then that's terrible. That's kind of really the process with this for the most part. So basically, the way that I do it is you do a couple of big lightning bits, and then from there you just kind of, maybe not quite like that, but you just kind of squiggle them out in a way that feels natural, and then that more or less kind of contributes to you creating this natural flow of lightning that kind of goes every which way in direction, because the way that lightning moves is very weird in reality. There's not really much of a kind of logic to it, but you just kind of do that. You just squiggle it out, more or less. And yeah, you just have to naturally taper it out, because again, that's also how lightning moves, is that it kind of naturally tapers out into these thinner bits, and again, these are going to get highlighted whenever I do the outer glow on it. But that's kind of just the gist of it, more or less. That's kind of normally what I do, I think. I don't normally go much crazier than that. I think that's one bit of lightning done. And then you just kind of do this for each of them. So yeah, I think I might. Well, this isn't the most time-consuming process, so I might leave it as is. I might not speed it up. And who knows? This might be the exact type of thing that somebody might enjoy watching. So who knows? So if you're one of those lightning enjoyers, perhaps leave a comment or something. I might take this time to just, ask people to do things that they're probably not going to do. But yeah, lightning just kind of ripples its way across the sky like that. It's kind of the same principle that you'd do for anything natural, is that it just kind of flows in every which direction and just tapers off. That's just how nature rolls. Just kind of goes in every which direction. That was a bad line. But yeah, and that's just kind of the way that you do it. You just kind of have it kind of overlap and crook out into all these different directions and taper off. And so yeah, you got lightning filling the sky now. Just this little bit of a trick. And now some of this is being covered by the hands, obviously, so we can get away with letting those lines end abruptly, because the idea being that maybe they taper off in that direction and stop after that. So yeah. Let's just roll it out, roll it all out. guess, what we've got there. Yeah, like, again, realistically, lightning doesn't tend to kind of crook downwards like this. But this is what we've got with this space. This is what we've got to work with. So, yeah, just whatever you can manage with the space. But yeah, the lightning really, it's more about the effects that you put on afterwards that kind of sell it, really. Because the only thing you do want is you want to make sure that none of each individual things really connect into each other, because that is kind of unrealistic. I don't know, I don't look at lightning very often, so, which is ironic given how, you know, clearly I use a lot of reference. But yeah, I don't normally do that. I don't normally have it kind of connect really at all. I just feel like that seems more natural to me anyways. To have it just kind of fly off until it just kind of stops. And then just do stuff like this. It's all these weird little lines. That's the crux of it, isn't it? It's just all lines at the end of the day. Hope you enjoyed this just unconstrained rambling for a moment. This is what you get from that one art stream I did that one time. I suppose if you want to see more of those, I suppose you could leave a comment. The chances are this isn't going to be a hugely popular one, I would say. Because I don't know how often people are looking up art of Shredder. I haven't necessarily seen much of it myself, so this is the thing. That is vaguely phallic, maybe remove that. Yeah. Alright, we're getting there. It's fine to just have shapes that just kind of go nowhere when it comes to this type of stuff, really. It's just the nature of the beast. So yeah, now finish that bit up like that. So that's more or less what we've got when it comes to the lightning. Is there anything else? I should maybe clean some of this up as well. Just kind of do these shapes here like that, and then that feels like it kind of goes in more of a direction. Yeah, right. So now we might apply some blur to this. I'm thinking maybe some blur. I don't know if I normally do blur on lightning, but yeah, really the only thing to it really is just add some outer glow. And because I have the light line, that's what I'm going to be using as our lightning color. Maybe something like that. And then I'm going to set it to be a normal layer because I don't want it to be screen. Because for some reason the blend is always set to screen by default, which always bothers me. I don't like that very much. So yeah, there we go, we've got some lightning. And generally speaking, you want it to spread, but not so much that it looks like that, where it's kind of like weird and dull. You want it to still define the edges a little bit, but still have enough spread that it's interesting looking. But yeah, that's kind of what we've got. I might apply a tiny bit of blur to that. Let's see how that looks, because that's not something I show off very often. That's in filter? Yeah, it's in filter. I normally prefer Gaussian blur. Okay, maybe not quite that much. We're only applying 1 pixel worth here, really, aren't we? If I apply too much, it just becomes a mess. It blurs out too much. Maybe not that. Well, it didn't look bad whenever it had the blur on it. But that said, the texture will kind of blur it out a little bit, won't it? Yeah, I think it will. Because yeah, you can see now that the blur is on it, it gives it this kind of feeling of like fading out into the distance kind of thing with the way that it... Obviously we've got our thicker lines, then our thinner lines, and obviously our really thin lines, and those kind of like... It looks like they're kind of like blending into the background, adds this nice little bit of depth to the background. It's also messy. So that's kind of the reason why you do lightning at the end of the day, is because it's messy. Let me have another go with the blur. I might actually try that again. We're going to want to make it very minor if we do it. Okay, let's make 1 pixel worth of blur and then just... I think 1 pixel worth of blur is alright. I'm just undoing and redoing is what I'm doing here. So this is without, and then that's with. I think the blur does a little bit for us. If we just go in here, it just means that these lines have a little less of a hard edge to them. That's all it really does. With the Gaussian. But yeah. Right, I think that's us more or less. I need to do my gradient map and remember my gradient maps. And then add the texture, and that's it. So yeah, so we went over a bunch of little things here. I'm just going to do this now as well, I suppose. Provided I didn't speed any of that stuff up, then this is quite a hefty little ending chunk, more so than normal. So try this in the green, maybe not quite that green. And then try this on the blue. I want it to be a bit of a paler blue, like this, because we want it to be a juicy blue. This will be somewhere in between, like this. I want it to be dark. I do still want it to be dark. Let's see how this looks on an overlay. Okay, we're back to washing out the purple quite a bit. Turn it down to 60%. So we are losing a degree of the purple. You can still see it because of the way I did the was it vivid light or pin light that I did on this. I'll go back in and have a look at it. Because I did the pin light, that kind of stutters out the types of the shades that we put in there. And because of that, that means that you can still see the purple, then the darker, then the lighter, and then obviously the light line. Yeah, that worked out quite well actually. That was the clever move that I did there earlier on. Alright, let's do this again, and then I'm going to be doing this one as a luminosity. Just didn't work for some reason there. So, you see the luminosity, you see what that does to the lightning there. It kind of dulls the white of it, so it kind of enhances the kind of blurring out into the distance thing we got going on there. Of course, the luminosity makes everything a little darker. And it kind of brings back out our purple a little bit. Now, we're going to try the colour burn. I might actually not do the colour burn, actually. That looks with 2 luminosity layers on it. Try the colour burn. Now, the colour burn actually isn't doing much here, it's just making it darker. So I will turn up the colour burn to about 10%. So yeah, it's just making it darker, that's all we want from that. I'm forgetting something here. I just realised I'm forgetting something, and that's my signature. So I'll just swap this in here really quick. There's always something I bloody forget with these. Right. I don't know what it is. I think there's something wrong with the pen maybe. The pen might be on its way out. That I'm getting all these really thick lines. Not actually what I'm intending on doing here. I'm not intending on getting super thick lines. I'm just intending on getting normal lines. But yet, here I am getting these very thick lines. I was finding that throughout the whole thing there was that on like all these little bits of, what do you call it, on all the kind of like outer lines. I wasn't really intending on doing them super thick, but yet I was getting very thick lines. Yeah. I feel like maybe it wasn't maybe the best idea to do this immediately after the spawn one, of where we've now got 2 in a row which have very particular green color palettes, which I wouldn't normally do. So let's try this with the overlay. 30%. Maybe make it a little bit grittier. So now, this also makes our lightning radiate out a little bit more. It looks like there's kind of like noise being applied to it, which is a kind of a nice thing. And again, this also re-emphasizes the kind of grittiness of a lot of our shading here, and it makes it look quite dirty. But again, I use that term in a good way for this. I want this to look dirty and kind of nasty, and because again we have the blur on it as well, this means that this has a very like loose edge to it, and that means this all kind of blurs out in a very messy kind of way. But obviously when we turn it off, this doesn't kind of glow quite as much. But yeah, that's kind of what we wanted there. So yeah, that is Shredder done. So yeah, I kind of forget what our next one is. Oh yeah, I remember what our next one is now. The next one will be probably about the same kind of difficulty as this one. So this one's nearly at a 5 hour length, meaning it is one of the longer ones, but I managed to get it done all in one sitting, which is pretty good, all in all. Better than normal. Normally these take God knows how long. But I will say, I've got a bit of a headache after doing it. So yeah, with all that said, I will just kind of wrap us up very quickly here. This was a fun one all in all. I like the kind of weird colour palette. But yeah, anyways, so I will say my outro and then we'll leave you. So if you like the video, do whatever you normally do, whether that be liking or not. I would of course prefer if you liked it, but if you would prefer not to, that's fine. Whatever you're gonna do is fine with me. It's the same deal if you want to subscribe. I would of course prefer if you did, but if you would prefer not to, that's fine. I don't need to tell you where the subscribe button is. You've seen a YouTube video before, presumably, so you know, do that. And yeah, if you choose to watch the next video, I'll see you next time. But with all that said, I'm lip smacking a lot. With all that said, I will say goodbye and then I will leave you. So, bye bye.